I think the Republican Guard certainly are playing some real strong politics in Iran right now, and they're kind of pushing out the moderates. So hard to say what's going on there and who we're dealing with, actually. So 845-1100, do we have any callers?
Nope.
No callers as yet. Wow, 7 after, and nobody's called in. That's pretty amazing. A few people have asked me, I got a few texts last week, what's the temperature in the pool? Temperature in the pool is about 76 degrees. It hasn't been warmed up yet because I had to have the stand for the heater plate basically replaced, and that should be done today. So there was a part that had to be replaced inside the heater, and that'll be done today. And then the temperature of the pool will rise dramatically and probably be in it this weekend. So, again, Lynette, you live in East Chicago. And I know you're not a sports fan, but when you think about the immense impact that the Bears could have in Northwest Indiana, what do you think?
Sorry, the stream ended for some reason. I gotta fix this.
Okay, so she's gonna work on that. So I'm gonna. I guess I'll answer. I live in Robertsdale. I live not far from where the proposed Bears Stadium is, and there's part of me who says this would be great. It'll be great for property values, and be great for the community. And there's part of me that also says this will change the basis of the neighborhood quite a bit. So hard to say. I'm sure there are some negative sides. Obviously, the positive sides are being just a walk away from the Bears Stadium and professional football. That sounds great. And the impact that it would have, positive impact on business, I think would be very good. But you just don't know. I mean, people always say, oh, well, if you bring in a project like that, it's going to increase crime. I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I think most people that can afford to go to a Bears game probably have a lot of money, and the last thing they're looking to do is get involved in crime. So I'm not too worried about the impact of crime, but I am worried about all the traffic and some of the other things that it may bring, the congestion, and so it could have an impact on the neighborhood, no doubt about it. So I'd love to hear from you this morning, hear what you have to say about it. And now we've got some callers, and we've got the stream. We've got it fixed.
Yeah, I got it back.
So we'll go to callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I saw gas this morning for $3.09.
Wow.
At 3 different speedways in St. John and Cherville.
No, it's coming down. It is coming down. You know what's interesting is that what's going on in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has that one pipeline that diverts oil from the Strait of Hormuz to the Red Sea, and they've got that line now running up and running at full capacity. But the massive amount of trucking that's going on in Saudi Arabia right now, they are literally trucking day and night. They've hired every truck driver in the Middle East to drive truckloads of oil to other ports and to relocate the supply of oil from the Strait of Hormuz. And so I saw one expert on television the other day who said that the Strait of Hormuz is no longer providing 20% of the world's oil. It's providing about 10% now because of that change. So it's pretty amazing. So you've seen it at you said 309?
Yeah, and then Luke gas station on 41 in Cherville, they had 309 and 304 with a wash. So,
I don't understand.
And then the most bizarre thing is I see it for 309 there, and I go down 30, and I'm driving to Maryville, and it's 343. It's like, how does a 5-mile gap make a 35-cent difference or whatever, 34 cent,
You brought that up, and I was just going to say the same thing. I don't understand how you can have pricing that varies so much. Like I mentioned, the South Shore gas station. Okay, that's on the west side of Indianapolis Boulevard, right by the East Chicago South Shore station. and they're running 334 and 314. Luke Oil's across the street, and they're running 334 and 334. They both have car washes. There's no discount for the car wash for Luke Oil, but there is for South Shore Gas. And it just seems crazy. I mean, why would anybody go, if you're going to get your car washed, why would you go to Luke Oil right now? Because it's 20 cents cheaper across the street, yet you see plenty of people in line for the car wash. So, I don't know. It is bizarre.
Well, you said something earlier that interested me. Beef Wellington is actually one of my favorite things to cook.
Really? So have you ever had a
God.
cheeseburger? You ever had a cheeseburger Wellington?
No, I have not. Nope, I just cook it the traditional style with the puff pastry and the Parma ham and the mushrooms and the filet, But no, I've never done it on a cheeseburger. That'd be one expensive cheeseburger, Tom.
Well, I saw this. So I saw this recipe online, and I'm one of these guys. I like to cook and I like to bake, and I thought, okay, this can't be too hard. Basically, you're taking pastry dough, and it says that you have to cook the hamburgers beforehand. If you don't, it's gonna be too much grease inside the pastry. So you cook the hamburgers. You put a hamburger in, then you put cheese. Then you put another hamburger. Then you put caramelized onions, some pickles, some zesty sauce, basically, which is mayonnaise, mustard, and ketchup mixed together. And then you close it all up. You flip it over. You baste it with some egg wash, and you bake it for about 40 minutes, and it looks really good. And so I figured, why not? I'm going to try this today. And, my son said he's coming over for dinner, so he doesn't know yet that he's going to have hamburger Wellington. But I figured I'd try it. Why not?
Well, have you ever cooked a traditional beef Wellington?
A long time ago I did. And it didn't turn out the way I wanted it. First of all, I like well done meat. So it didn't turn out. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it, but I did find a recipe recently, and actually, I was looking for a recipe for beef Wellington, and that's when I saw the cheeseburger Wellington. So I was looking for a well done beef Wellington recipe, and I found that, and then I saw the cheeseburger Wellington. I'm like, well, you know what? In the middle of the week, that would be easier to make than beef Wellington. So, but. Any kind of beef I like, so I figured why not? I'm going to try this. But no, beef Wellington is great. The best beef Wellington I ever had was in London, no doubt about it. Amazing.
No, I bet. Yeah. Well, next weekend you got to tell us how this turns out because it sounds really good.
I'm going to. In fact, I think I'll take some photos. If it turns out well, I'll take photos. If not, you won't hear a word about it. So, hey, thanks for the call. Have a great day. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Mayor McDermott, of course, is big on the Bears Stadium. But
And
what's
rightly
your
so.
sense about the reaction? I'm sorry?
I said, and rightly so. I mean, he's got to be the number one cheerleader for the Bears coming into Northwest Indiana, because it's going to be just a massive change in the city of Hammond if it happens.
How do the people of Whiting and Robertsdale feel about this? Do you have any sense about that?
Well,
I've that's the one thing in the media about asking the people, actually citizenry that would really be directly affected by it, how they feel about it.
well, I'll tell you what. I've talked to a lot of my friends and neighbors, and of course, I live right there. And it seems like the vast majority are in favor. I think most of us have the belief that it still probably won't happen. One of my neighbors said this past weekend that he still thinks it's less than a 50-50 chance. But I've not run into a lot of people who have said they're absolutely opposed to it. Now, there's a few. I know one in particular who told me that he'd just get up and move tomorrow if they come, but then said to me, well, I'd probably move because my house will be worth a lot more money. So I've not seen a lot of outward opposition. You don't hear a lot of people talking about like, organizing a petition drive or some sort of protest of the concept at this point. I'm sure there will be some, but I think for generally speaking, most people are viewing it as kind of a positive.
Okay, well, is it possible that the sentiment is it's probably not going to come, so why think or talk about it?
And I think that's been the view of a lot of people, Walt. I think you're right about that. Until recently, when I'd see people, for example, even after church, somebody Sunday stopped me and said, "So, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, looks like it's more and more likely." And they said, "Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I still don't believe that they'll come here." So, I think that you're right. A lot of people have kind of dismissed it, that it probably won't happen. But I'm glad that you called, because you're always up on things that are happening in the area. And I wondered if you're aware of the visit by Big Boy, the Union Pacific steam locomotive engine, is the world's largest active steam locomotive. It was built in 1941, and Big Boy is running from Union Pacific. It's running from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast and back. And this Friday, it will be coming through Hammond. And
Wow.
It'll also be coming through Hobart. Anytime after about 8 o'clock, it'll be at West Chicago the night before, and then it'll start up. So somewhere between about 8 and 9 a.m., it's going to roll through downtown Hammond on the Norfolk Southern tracks. And it'll roll through Hammond, through Hessville, and then continue on toward Hobart. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see this. And I know there's a lot of train aficionados out there, and hoping that some of them can call in and give us details. But I know that it was built in 1941. It's the world's largest steam engine and steam locomotive, and it's going to be coming through to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the founding of this nation this Friday. And I've got to do a shout out to Judge Marissa McDermott, because she has been on top of this probably more than any friend that I have. She's been posting on Facebook that it's coming, and actually we traded some texts yesterday. So I know she's going to be standing out probably along the Norfolk Southern tracks in Hessville, which isn't too far from her home. I'll probably go to downtown Hammond to see it. But are you going to go out and see this thing?
Maybe. I've seen it on television. I've seen other big steam engines, not as big as this one. This is the biggest. But we'll see. If you've not been close to one of those machines, it's very impressive. I mean, it's amazing. And, of course, 1941 was a good year. That was the year I was born. So it was also the year that they built the Pentagon in Washington.
Well, they built these, the Big Boy, and they actually, I think there were 4 of these engines that they built at the time, and it was built basically as kind of the uptick of the war effort in 1941. Of course, we were starting to really engage productivity for the war effort throughout the United States, even though we didn't enter the war until December 7th. But by 1941, Lend-Lease, which started in 1940 with the Soviet Union and the British, had already gone into full production, and the United States knew it was inevitable. And so they built these giant engines. It was supposed to be to help haul steel across the nation. And they're massive engines. This is the only one left, and it still runs. And it's a chance of a lifetime to see this locomotive come through. So I think it'll be really, really neat. I'm like I said, I'll be standing just off Holman Avenue in downtown Hammond on Friday morning, watching for it to come by.
Let's talk about California. There's some really interesting results. At the governor's level, there's a chance the Republican might actually win. And
well, he would win in the runoff. He would win in the runoff. He wouldn't win outright, though. He would win a seat in the runoff. And Look, I think that the Republicans have misstepped the last couple of years. I mean, Donald Trump ran on no wars, and he ran on a bunch of things that he didn't deliver on, and I think there's some aggravation with the Republican Party, but it pales in comparison to the aggravation people have with the Democratic Party. And I think out in California, they're just tired of the bureaucracy that exists, that nothing gets done. I mean, it's taken how many years to build that train, and they haven't put down 1 mile of track yet. You've got Karen Bass, who's the mayor of Los Angeles, and she talks about how she's basically addressing homelessness, although homelessness really you haven't seen any change in the homeless population. It's probably gotten worse in L.A., so I think people are just tired of the same song and dance. I did see a number that the number of registered Republican voters in Los Angeles County increased by 143,000 last year. The number of Democratic voters increased by 10,000. So that's more than a 10-to-1 ratio, and I think people are fed up out there. So it's kind of lesser of two evils. I think the Republicans are making a lot of missteps right now, but I think people are saying, look, I just can't continue with the Democratic politics in California. So it'll be interesting. The biggest concern I have is it takes 5 days for them to figure out the vote. They send out ballots to anybody and everybody, and 5 days is a lot of time to fix a lot of ballots. After reading the book 1960 about the 1960 election, 5 days is a lot of time to fix an election. That's for sure.
Sure. But I think these big cities like Chicago and LA are doomed because there's a lot of discontent as to the way government operates, high taxes, incompetent government. But then you have this coalition of white left-wingers and black race voters, a coalition that gives us Mr. Johnson or Karen Bass. And I don't think it's going away anytime too soon. I'd say the odds are that Karen Bass, despite her incompetence, is going to continue on as the mayor of L.A. And I suspect that Mr. Johnson, if he runs again, I think he still has a shot.
Well, can I ask, why is it that those two mayors look so incompetent and act so incompetent when they're interviewed on television? Karen Bass always looks like a deer in the headlights, and Johnson, in his case, looks just moronic. I mean, he looks like somebody that doesn't have a clue, basically because he doesn't have a clue. Karen Bass, I understand, is actually quite intelligent. Nobody says that about Johnson. Although I will say, and then we have to go to a break, Walt, but I'm a little upset that the Pope just had an audience with Brandon Johnson. Johnson, one, isn't Catholic. Number two, he doesn't probably have a clue who the Pope is or why he was there. And I don't understand why the Pope basically had an audience with Brandon Johnson. I mean, maybe to do an exorcism. That's about the best I can figure it out. Hey, thanks, Walt. We've got to go to a break. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJLB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
For over 100 years, Roofers Local 26 has been keeping Northwest Indiana dry and safe. Since 1919, our highly trained members have built a reputation for skills, safety, and reliability. With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, Powers Health.
When your home needs help, the last thing you need is a faceless corporation or sales-driven franchise. At Myers Companies, we've been proudly local since 1951, born and raised right here in Northwest Indiana. We're family-owned and operated, built on trust, hard work, and integrity. And because we're family, we treat you like family. Your comfort and safety always come first. For HVAC, plumbing, and electrical done right, choose Myers Companies. Local, family owned, here for your family.
Ogren Insurance, Hammond's oldest family-owned independent insurance agency, now in its third generation providing clients in the Chicago area with products from quality insurance companies to handle your every need. Regardless of driving history, Ogren Insurance can find the right coverage for you at competitive prices. To learn more about the insurance solutions and services we offer throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or visit our website, ogreninsurance.com. We're located at 6929 Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Do business locally with someone you know and trust.
All right, we're back, and we're going to go right to the calls, but I just want to point out on the Dan Ryan outbound, there's an accident. So it seems to be slowing traffic outbound. Inbound actually looks still pretty good. Starts to back up around Pershing. So not bad this morning on traffic, except for the issue on the Dan Ryan. Let's go to the calls. Good morning, you're on the air.
How you doing there, Tom?
I'm doing fine. I see you're doing. You did quite well. I saw your catch from the other day at the Redneck Riviera. You had a pretty good haul of fish.
Yes, those were slabber bluegill. So what happens is in my area, in the Flambeau Voyage, the limit is 10. But that doesn't mean you could take 10 home, because other places like Big Bearskin Lake, it's 5. And I'll explain this to people. Unless you have your resort owner package the bluegill and you go home with 10 and it ain't signed by a packager, you're 5 bluegill over the limit.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I wondered how would they know which lake or river that you caught the fish in. So that makes sense.
Exactly. When we used to go to Minnesota, we used to stay at Spears Point, and Kenny, he's long gone now, God bless his heart. He used to sign how many we had, so we could get right through a roadblock, and we didn't have to leave nothing on the skin. But in some areas, like Little Bearskin Lake, you could only catch 5 bluegill. And if you're going through a checkpoint and you have 10 and you don't have your package signed by a packager, you're 5 bluegill over the limit, and your DNR owns the truck. So, but here's why I really called 2 reasons. Again, I'm older than you, and I was right again, and we'll talk about that. But as far as getting old with this Bears football game, it's kind of exciting, okay? Now,
do you think it's going to happen? Hold on. Let me first ask, do you think it's going to happen?
Well, from what I hear, the Bears are on back taxes. And if they build anywhere, from what Arlington Heights says, now this is Arlington Heights, and I could be wrong, and the article could be wrong, but from what I read on the internet, and you know what that's about, that Bears are back on their back taxes, like they never paid it. So if Arlington buys the Bears or builds a Bears stadium, Arlington's got to pay the back taxes, right? So that's what that Bear's doing over there by the Hammond sign I built, Mimi cartoon I made. That the Bears moved to Indiana. Indiana don't have to pick up the taxes. But I did listen to Mayor McDermott, and I forgot the amount of years. If you remember the Oxbow Tiff, when the Buffalo Wild Wings came in, there was a tax abatement. It was for 10 years. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And that Buffalo Wild Wings didn't have to pay taxes for 10 years because Chico was my councilman, and he explained it to me.
Wait a minute. It wasn't that they had 10 years complete forgiveness. It was a 10-year stair step. So the first year is 0, then it's 10%, then it's 20%, then it's 30%. It goes on from there. So they gradually have to pay their taxes. So the abatement isn't 10 years full abatement. It's a stair-step abatement.
For everybody listening, and I know you know this because I lost it, what McDermott said, the Bears are going to get a tax abatement on the property or pay no taxes, and after a certain amount of years, the Bears will buy. Oh boy, my alarms are going off. The Bears will pay $1 for the land, and then we start taxing them. Do you know if it's how many years that is? I forgot what the mayor said.
In the case of the Bears, I believe it's 20 years. I believe it's a 20-year abatement. So the Bears is, of course, special legislation. So normally a city or a town can give tax abatement, but it's a stair-step abatement, whereas the legislation that was passed by the state of Indiana for the Bears would be a totally different situation. I think it's 20 years of complete abatement.
So, for 20 years, we will own the property, from what I understood it to the mayor. And then, after the 20th year, we sell it to the Bears for $1, and then we start getting the money. So, I hope during this time that if we do get it, it's really kind of thinking we're going to get it because Arlington ain't going to pay the back taxes on the Bears. The Bears ain't paid back. They just don't like taxes. Will the mayor put somewhere in the stipulation that when we need police that day and auxiliary police the day of the game, that the Bears pay for that? Because it's going to take more than the Hammond police. I think we only got 120 left. I'm not sure. I mean,
about 170. But look, you're right. You're right. You're right. There are a lot of details that have to be worked out. And when you're talking about an NFL stadium, 170 police officers, for example, is still not enough to address the needs. So you're going to have off-duty police officers working from all over to staff that stadium. You're right about that. But the argument is that if you put the Bears there, all the ancillary development, all the additional investment that occurs in Hammond basically offsets the cost of that stadium. So you're going to have the beverage tax. It's going to cover Lake and Porter counties. It's not just going to be a food and beverage tax in Hammond, say, or in Lake County. It'll be Lake and Porter County, two counties to raise the funds. So there's a lot of details that I don't think we know all about yet. But you're talking about an immense project that, again, could be a positive for Northwest Indiana.
A 75% chance that they're coming now after Arlington. And, of course, the article hit MX Cartoons. Everything hits MX Cartoons first, and then it goes to WJOB, and Chuck Poland posted it in MX Cartoons. We're a very informational site.
Don't forget Region News Source, though. I think Region News Source is pretty good at breaking news, too.
Oh, yeah. But we constantly get taken down because people don't like the truth. And then I make a meme of a bear standing by the City Hall sign waiting for Hammond to pay the taxes. But I want to be able to flush my toilet during a Bears game. So I'm sure there's because when you got 70,000 people constantly flushing the toilet at the Bears Stadium, then we need infrastructure problems. And I guarantee you, if it's an indoor stadium, that Supercross will be there, and there's 70,000 at every event. You see that, don't you, with Hagen Deegan and
sure.
So So I'm always right. You got to remember that because I'm older than you.
That's right, because you're older.
Yeah, you might be bigger than me, but I'm a lot tougher than you. Now let's go to the next one where I was right. Okay.
Well, hold on. Before we go on to the other issue, I want to ask you real fast: are you going to go out to see Big Boy on Friday because you were a steel worker and Big Boy, the Union Pacific Big Boy, in many ways is a symbol of the prowess of the American steel industry. Are you going to go see it?
Well, I hopped a lot of trains back in the day on Gibson Woods, and if I can make it, I will.
I'm
promise you I will.
fascinated. I'm fascinated by the idea. I mean, you and I didn't get to see steam locomotives. Okay, they pretty much were gone by the mid 1950s. They pretty much had disappeared from the landscape in the United States. So this is our chance to see this thing rumble down the tracks, and it'll come back this way on July 16th. But I want to see this thing, and I thought, MX, man, he's going to be out there. He'll be out there, 2 hours early. So I'm a little surprised that you're not planning to be out there even earlier than what you're saying. But go ahead. You had a second point.
Well, speak for yourself, because I lived by the Gibson Yards. I did see about 2 of them when I was a little boy. But I got a video where on my dirt bike where I get next to a train and I outrun it. I think it's time to post that. You'll see it. I get up next to a train, and I'm not going to tell you where it's at, and I outrun the train. And I was way into my 50s. But let's talk about me being right again. I hate being right. And them guys on the chat board, would you please beat me up, because my reputation ain't as good as it used to be. So would you say some bad words about me? Say something, anything? What has happened here? My father knew everything I did. Everything. I came in the house one day, and he heard the car screeching. He looked at my gloves, and they were wet, right? Bam! He says, "You're throwing snowballs at cars, ain't you?" And I said, "Yeah." So the people that know where Kennedy Avenue is, they had a place you could dry your gloves off. And the next time I threw snowballs at cars, I went down to the Norge. It was called Norge, and dried my gloves off. I come in the house, and my dad says, "Let me see your gloves." And they were dry, right? And I thought I got away with it. Bam! He said, "Don't pull true that you went and dried them gloves off." There was nothing I couldn't do, or my brothers couldn't do, that my dad didn't know about, especially the one that was a carpenter, okay? He was like Paul Newman. He looked like Paul Newman. He acted like Paul Newman. He didn't mean to.
But he didn't make salad dressing.
He was in a lot more trouble than I could ever dream of. He got carpenter, you know what I mean? Back in the day, the ones that were rough framers. And this goes to this Jerry Williams guy. When I had told you, and you got down on me and said, I don't know all the facts here. And if he can't know what's going on under his own house, how's he going to do this big gig coming up? And I'm for Jerry Williams, don't get me wrong.
But hold on a second. Let me, in fairness, Jerry Williams' son is 42 years old, something like that? I mean, he's old enough, he's on his own. Can you really hold Jerry Williams accountable for what his son has done? I mean, the guy's an adult. He's the police chief, or was the police chief of New Chicago. I mean, can you really hold him accountable for what his son is doing as an adult?
I told you about what happened to us. Okay, let's say you can't hold him accountable. Let's say you're right. But the guys working under him that should be promoted may not want to work for Jerry Williams. No different than happened to us at the mill. When you got competent, able guys that were boilermakers and iron workers, of course, that was me. And I never wanted to be boss. I didn't want to shake everybody down from the taverns. What was that one, Pete Mabel's? Let them go to lunch, and they'll sit there at Pete Mabel's the rest of the day. Come on, guys, let's go back to work, okay? We got to get this job done. So you never tell the boys to go out to lunch because they ain't coming back. So what happens is, in an environment like I was in, that if you bring guys from the outside and promote them, the troops don't want to work. I'm worried about what the morale will be. I'm talking morale now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about what Jerry Williams is. The morale of the troops, of the police officers are going to think about this gig of Jerry Williams. And Jerry was probably a great guy, nice guy, you know, all that kind of stuff. Shake your hand, you know, I'm smiling on the Verley show, all that. But I need to know a little bit more because, you know what you know what I'm saying? I need to, and, you know, I found out a lot there, and I guarantee you, when I mess up, somehow my dad gives me a sign from heaven, like he hides the 10-millimeter socket. Where'd this 10-millimeter socket go? And that's a sign from up above.
Well, I thought
Like
because
dad,
you said
like
he looked like Paul Newman that basically caused you to eat a salad. So, all right.
That was my dad, my brother. My brother looks like Paul Newman, but I got to go.
All right.
And
well, maybe we'll see you Friday. Maybe we'll see you Friday looking for the train. All right.
I gotta tar my gutters, but thanks for the explanation about the Bears.
All right. Take care,
Bye-bye.
MX, and I'll never forget. You're always right because you're older. Take care. 845-1100. We've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. Two questions. Number one, the Bears Stadium. So the Bears would only own the stadium, not the parking lot and the restaurants and the hotel. The people that build the hotels, like the Hiltons and Marriotts and those other, they will own that property around the stadium, so they would pay taxes on that.
That's my understanding.
Also?
That's my understanding. Yes, I mean it would be patterned similar to Lucas Oil Stadium. So Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, the hotels that are nearby are all owned by private entities. I know a couple of them, actually, a couple of the owners quite well, and the restaurants the same thing.
Okay, cool. All right. Number two. Years ago, when I was on Lehigh, we would go to Grandma's house on 4th of July there, a couple of doors down from Left Guard, and watch the spectacular, the biggest parade in Northwest Indiana, the 4th of July parade coming down Indianapolis Boulevard. Mm-hmm. Over the past 10 years, 12 years or so, it's lost a lot of its zippity-doo-dah. And you know, there's spaces between the floats and yada yada yada. So with 250 years celebrating, are they going to step it up a little bit? Because you know the entries that used to be there haven't been there. Like the Jesse White tumblers, I ain't seen them there in years.
So Jesse White was there. Jesse White was there about 3 years ago. Was the last time I saw them. But you have a good point. So a couple of things have been going on. One is that there are fewer marching bands, high school marching bands, than there used to be. A lot of high schools have gotten rid of marching bands. And secondly, Munster and Crown Point and Hobart all have parades now, so they draw entries away from the Whiting parade. I know Whiting is working quite diligently, Sarah Creel and Karen Anisevich on promoting participation in this year's Whiting parade. So they're trying to step it up. The one thing you're absolutely correct on is the gaps, okay? And I just have to explain and a shout out. Marty Deibel chaired the Whiting 4th of July parade for many years. Marty and I grew up together. Yes. He's a couple years older than me. Yep. And Marty, you would see him running along the parade. And you know, I used to chuckle.
And up and down there, yep.
And he'd be screaming, mind the gap, 20 feet, 20 feet. And Marty perfected that parade from the standpoint of keeping that 20-foot gap. And I don't think anybody will ever duplicate the dedication he had to the Whiting 4th of July parade. So in answer to the the issue of the gaps, it comes down to the parade marshals making sure that the units are moving along. I know Whiting's working on it, but it comes down to the volunteers. And again, finding some of the Whiting Parade used to feature 8 or 9 marching bands, and now it features 3 or 4.
Oh, absolutely. Blake Central's not even there. I ain't been to parade in 5 years probably, but Blake Central used to take up, half a block.
Well,
and then
you have again, you have a lot of competition and a lot fewer marching bands, and even the bands that you have, Whiting's always been a small band. Whiting's actually a medium-sized marching band now because other schools look at Bishop Knoll. Bishop Knoll's marching band is a good band, but it's very small compared to the way it used to be. It's just bands got very expensive for a lot of high schools, and they got rid of them.
All right, that explains this. I'll be there in front of Grandma's house. Although Grandma doesn't run no more, so I'll be there a couple doors down from Left Guard, and hopefully they have a nice 4th of July parade.
I hope so too.
Celebrate 250 years.
I hope so too. Hey, thanks for the call. Let's take a quick break. I know we have people holding. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM.
Summer's coming, and Deep River Water Park is taking applications for all positions. We have jobs both inside and out for all ages that offer great benefits. Free admission on your day off for you and a friend, free uniforms, paid training, make new friends, flexible scheduling, and more. To apply, just go to deepriverwaterpark.com and you're on your way to a summer of rewarding fun.
Deep River Water Park, it's simply splash-tastic.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
Sorry,
All right, ready? All right, we're back, and we've got some callers. We'll go right to the callers, and then we've got John Wilkening sitting in with me this morning. We'll get to John in just a minute. Let's get these callers out of the queue. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Tom. How you doing?
Good, good. Are you going to go see Big Boy this Friday?
No, I have to do my duty and take students to get tests to become commercial drivers, and drive a truck properly and safely, And,
well, make sure they know. Make sure they know about grade crossings with trains, because Big Boy would decimate a truck in a heartbeat. Man, it is one monster vehicle.
They've had some accidents on the news this week of trains hitting semis and blocking the roads and stuff like that. But yesterday was, for example, May. There's 31 days in May, and we broke a record finally. We had, 23 students in the month of May pass.
Wow.
We did very good. Yeah, but yesterday was interesting because we had to wait around a little bit to get the student tests. this student was from Nigeria, and he's been here 9 years. You know, I don't get into their personal life, but we were sitting around at the picnic table outside talking and everything. Started telling me how he's been here 9 years, and he went through the proper legal procedures to be an American citizen. He's been, and then, you know, we're talking, and I asked him, I says, do you ever drive a truck? No. I says, why did you choose to do this? He says, to try to better my life, make more money for the family. And then he was telling me where he lives and the people he's around. And, you know, he told me so much stuff about, you know, he says, all of us over here at the United States don't realize, you know, you think you see all the terrible stuff going on in another country. You come over here and they're all complaining about certain stuff. He goes, I never realized I come here to have a better life. But he says the feeling of people over here, the neighborhood he lives in, because there's all sorts of different people from nationalities live in his neighborhood. And they don't take in consideration of where they come from and what they are. They all get along because they just want to live here and have a wonderful life. And he says, I've lived here 9 years, and it's felt like I've lived here all my life because so many people are nice around here. He says, you got rude people, but his theory of it, you know, he's just...
Well, let me just jump in and point out that I had a very similar conversation with a priest down in Florida 2 weeks ago when I was down there for Memorial Day weekend. Father Nathan, who you could barely understand, you get about every fifth word you understand during Mass, but he's from India, and he basically pointed out that we take for granted what we have here, and that even though this country has a lot of issues and a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, this is still the number one destination for people from everywhere else in the world. So,
about the Bears,
yes.
Put it this way: I have an Amazon account now. I've already put in my my cart. I got Green Bay Packers stickers, fans, flags, shirts. I'm going to probably get me a winter jacket, you know, because if they come to Indiana, man, I'm going to be a Green Bay Packers fan.
Okay.
That's all I got to say, because, you know, or when they do, if they come to Indiana and how much of a mess this area is going to be of traffic jams, it's time to go way south of the border.
Well, I take it then you're not for them coming. That's pretty obvious. So, all right,
no,
Mike.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and it'd be a chaotic mess in this area, and it's going to take years for that, and it's going to cost all of us people, us taxpayers, more money in our pocket, taken out of our pocket because the McCaskies are greedy.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mike. Thanks so much. We're going to move on. Yep. Thank you for the call. Take care. 845-1100, we've got another caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
As the conversation relates to Jerry Williams and his son and the predicament that they're in, I understand that the son is an adult and he's of adult age and he's got the ability to make his own decisions. But let me ask you this, Tom. You are a father to a son, correct?
Yes, I am.
If you heard today that your son had committed a felony, let's just draw an equal scenario, doing what Jerry Williams' son is accused of doing, if you caught wind of that your son was implicated in that, would you believe it?
Would I believe it? No, because I know my son.
Yeah.
I mean, if they showed me proof, then I'd be very upset. But I look. My point is that Jerry.
Well, let me finish my point. So you say no, and that's probably why. Why would your son not do something like that?
Well, because he learned certain values, and I agree with you. He learned those values, and he
because you raised them the right way.
As best as I possibly could. That's right.
We don't know how Jerry Williams raised that kid. That kid could be a reflection of Jerry for all we know. We don't know what went on in that household. So I do have to hold Jerry somewhat responsible for his kid's actions. I understand he's an adult, but nonetheless, as a father myself to a son and two daughters, I like to think I raised my kid right to not do something like that. And knock on wood, my youngest being 22, we've not experienced anything like that. And I'm not putting a feather in my own cap, but I think that has a lot to do with it. But nonetheless, real quick, I know you got a guest or whatever, but a quick question as it relates to the Chicago Bears potentially moving to Indiana. Is that a dome stadium that they're talking about putting here?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it is. I believe it'd be a dome stadium, probably something similar to Lucas Oil Stadium, probably a retractable roof.
And I know it's all speculation and conjecture at this point, whether or not it's actually going to happen. But how far along are we in this in the process of building this ridiculous convention center in Lake County? Do we got the green light on that already? I mean, are things moving forward with that boondoggle?
Well, they have the green light, so they're moving forward. They haven't started construction, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I've kind of wondered the same thing. Like, if you're going to, why would you be building a convention center if you're going to be building a Bears stadium as well? So I agree with you there. It does seem to be almost a conflict, right?
Okay. Hopefully it sounds like we're both on the same page. Just another boondoggle in Lake County. Whether you're for the stadium or not, if you have a domed facility sitting there in Hammond, which you can utilize for conventions, why would we build an empty a convention center that we know is going to sit empty 99.9% of the time, kind of like the one we have already at the Genesis Center?
Well, the argument always has been that the convention center that we're going to build in Northwest Indiana is going to be for the smaller market events. So the things that basically would prove to be cheaper to hold it in Northwest Indiana than in Chicago, kind of the small, medium-sized gatherings. But as I said before, there are a lot of questions that I have about the success and the viability of a convention center, especially those second and third tier market facilities. There are a number of studies that I had one at the old studio, in fact, that was laying around, gathered dust, and they probably threw it out. But it was a study from a very reputable source that said that those kinds of facilities don't usually do too well. Now, of course, putting it next to the casino would help it. But I agree with you. If you're going to build the Bears Stadium, do you need to build the convention center? It's a good question.
Have a great day.
Hey, thanks so much for the call. Morning, John. How are you?
Tom Dabertin, I am great. It's always an honor to be here at the Voice of the Region, WJOB. Pretty exciting time, so great morning to be here.
It sure is. And speaking of which, it is 7 a.m. You're listening to WJOB 1230 a.m. and 100.7. Excuse me. You're listening to WJOB 1230 a.m. and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. I have it right at 7 a.m. and I muck up the call letters. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, John, you're the chief banking officer for Tech Credit Union.
Yes, I am. I could not be more excited to wear that title. What a run this one's been. I mean, Tom, you're out there. I mean, is this union movement? Is this not the revolution of Lake County banking? I mean, honestly, you've been in banking, dealt with a lot of banks. Have you ever seen mojo like this? I mean, we are building a house for the home of labor and the working class. I mean, and they're coming home in droves. Such an exciting time. And I don't mind giving a tech commercial to start, but for the third consecutive year, named the region's top credit union. Great leader Gene Novello, CEO of the year, and Jamaica Williams from our Gary branch, vice president and branch manager, her third consecutive year as banker of the year. So tech, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, that's for sure. Again, number one credit union, Gene Novello, CEO of the year. And then
banker of the year.
So yeah, you guys triple play there. That's pretty impressive, no doubt about it. And Tech Credit Union has grown dramatically in the last few years. I mean, you guys have really just.
Oh yeah, we're over $600 million now, and 11 branches. I mean, it's a movement, and everywhere I go, from picket lines to union halls, and it's time. It's time to take care of the working class and build a banking institution for the working class and all the people of Lake County. And it's a movement. It's a revolution, honestly. I mean, I bounce off walls anyway, but I found my why. This is the God's work that, really to build a home of labor in this region. Wow.
So you've really kind of pivoted Tech Credit Union to focus on support of union labor. I mean, you're just pointing out to listeners, your staff is unionized.
Yes,
they're union members. They're USW members.
They are.
Just got a really good contract.
They did, and we were super excited about that. That was the easiest contract in the world. As a matter of fact, we sent back to raise wages. I mean, when's that ever happened? But
yeah, I know that firsthand since I negotiated it. I mean, that was an easy negotiation. Very, very fun to be part of that. But you look at Northwest Indiana, and so look, you're a Goose Island guy. You grew up in Goose Island. We've got the BP strike that continues.
I want to say I'm disgusted with BP.
Yeah, I mean BP. Look, when you and I were kids, BP Oil, then Amoco Oil. And when Whiting had a snowfall, they came out and helped plow the streets. Okay. When Whiting had issues, they were always there for him. BP Oil is not the same as Amoco Oil by any means. They're not involved. You don't see them out there. You don't see them participating in things. They're I would say Tech Credit Union probably puts more into the community in Northwest Indiana than BP Oil, even though BP Oil is a $100 billion company. So lots of change in the commitment to Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, exactly. And this lockout, you've got, the tech team's been out there on the picket line trying to open those gates. Those are our workers. We came out with emergency loans for the locked out workers, as well as skipping all auto payments and home equity payments during this lockout. And we're getting along now. We'll be back at the picket line at 10 o'clock this morning. And, of course, we're making donations to help the men and women of labor. We're not just talking this. We're out there. We're on the signs. My CEO, Gene Novello, was out on the picket line. I mean, it's a movement. And we're all in with this labor. But, how greedy. I mean, really, BP and NIPSCO, shame on you. You had record years. You're locking out your workers. Thank you to NIPSCO side. But what's going on at that refinery is a disgrace. And as a Goose Islander, I will tell you, way too many friends with the brain cancer, the stomach cancer, and you know that. And the children of the 80s continue to die with oil in their sewers. And, your Tribune article, I guess going back a few years ago when it was on the front page, Tom Dabertin said, I guess they just don't care about us. And, that's the feeling I get. You're coming off a record year. You're locking off your workers, locking out your workers. And, man, these people are missing paychecks. There's lives here. They're coming off record earnings. Meg O'Neill's over there in London.
That's what really drives me crazy, John, is they're coming off of record earnings, okay? And so we're talking about gas prices, and they're down this morning. People are calling in. 309, I think, is the lowest I've heard this morning, which is we're getting there. But the fact is that BP is just hammering the Midwesterners, especially. As I pointed out before, I can drive from South Florida to Whiting, and the highest gas prices I see are in Northwest Indiana. What does that say about BP Oil? Who produces the oil, the gas, by the way, and the fuel for just about every gas station in Northwest Indiana?
Yeah, we had to find a list of who was getting their gas from BP so we could not support them, frankly. But this is so wrong on so many levels, and just and very antagonistic too, because I'm at the picket line. I mean, the security of BP, scraping the ground like the workers would vandalize something. These men and women want to get back to work. I mean, they're not even trying to break the bank on wages. They want safety, and they want to save jobs. And as a Goose Islander, as a Whiting guy, let's be honest. what was our population before the 55 fire? 10,000?
10,000.
Yeah, you blow up Stiglitz Park and you pay a fraction of your taxes and you don't employ people in the community anymore. So what the hell are you there for? I mean, this is a very passionate subject for me. And, this is why I moved on to Tech Credit Union where labor banks and wanted to build this. And this is no growth strategy. This is who we are. We started in 1936. We're getting ready to celebrate our 90th birthday. We started outside the USW Gary Works plant, moved to Broadway Ridge Road. The only bank in Gary, Indiana that started in Gary, Indiana. Everybody else is there through a merger and acquisition or a government order for redlining. That's the truth. Tech is the hometown team built by the people for the people. And this BP lockout is so near and dear to my heart, especially being a Goose Islander. The evacuations through the years, the staying at the community center. God bless the city of Whiting at times for shipping in hamburgers for all of us. But, there were weeks that we weren't home. And BP, it's a bloody bad look on a record year. And NIPSCO, what can I say about you? My God, people choosing between medicine and heat. Congratulations there. Job well done.
Yeah, I mean, once again, you've got – so one of the nice things about Tech Credit Union is you're headquartered in Northwest Indiana. You are a homegrown credit union, and you take NIPSCO. Okay, NIPSCO is no longer headquartered in Northwest Indiana. Their headquarters basically are in, like, Columbus, Ohio. And so, once again, you don't see the same commitment. You don't see the same passion for Northwest Indiana that they used to have because they're not homegrown. By the way, 845-1100 is the number to call. Gladly take your calls. We'll talk about anything that you want to talk about this morning with John Wilkening sitting in with me. But again, NIPSCO's the same thing. They're the shadow of what they used to be.
Yeah, and what can I say this? Thanks, Tom. Hey, BP and NIPSCO, do me, or more importantly, NIPSCO, can you stop sponsoring events? It's our money, and I'm sure as you talk to all your constituents, all your customers here that we gouge through the winter, quit with the goodwill. These people would rather save $500 a year off their bills than they want you sponsoring some little fest, and it's our money. Now, right or wrong?
I agree with you. I agree. They're taking the whole idea of NIPSCO was it was supposed to be a regulated monopoly. Okay, regulated monopoly meant that you wouldn't have competition in return for low prices. But you don't have low prices. They're one of the 5 highest utilities in the United States, and I point this out all the time. I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condominium in Florida. The highest rate that I've paid for electricity down there is like $50, $60 for an entire month. Okay, that's for an entire month. You say, well, yeah, but you're not paying for the whole building. You're right, but still. Florida, your air conditioning unit is running constantly, okay? It is, I mean, there's no question. You don't turn off air conditioning down in Florida. And because of the humidity and the heat, and here I'm paying $50, $60 a month. If it were in Northwest Indiana, I figured out that bill would be about $260. So that tells you what they're doing with their money, and they're a regulated monopoly. So the idea is that we're holding down prices so we keep out the competition. Well, it's not working out too well for us, is it?
No, it's a train wreck, and it was, and then you get the whole gas meters are wrong. We read that. And I know a lot of people that suffered through that. So
but they sent you a letter that was basically a form letter that said, "Don't worry, they checked, and you're not one of them that was cheated on the gas meters."
Well, in fact, I was one of them. And I had months over 500, and then all of a sudden the meter gets fixed and it's 300, and this went on for a year. So can I get a refund of 2,400? I mean, there's no goodwill there. No, I'm just not a fan. I'm sorry. They're 2 of our biggest employers in the regions, and they had to, Standard Oil, God bless, did a lot of great things to help region-wide. But when it went to Amoco and then the BP, it became a different game. NIPSCO, unforgivable. The delivery charges, the hiding of fees, and my God, just an awful look. And I'm glad we're talking. We're having a real combo today. But 2 of our biggest employers sticking at the workers who made them record profits, locking them out. Come on. And can I ask one thing of BP? Please don't donate anything to the city of Whiting. because every time you give us something, it's because you don't want to maintain it. Amico Park, the community center. I mean, all those gifts we got became financial albatrosses around the city. So let me say this: that refinery doesn't give us anything until it's cheaper to give it away than it is to give it.
All right, we've got a caller. Good morning. We're going to go to the calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Tom. I love the program. I wonder what Frank Mervan's stance is on tobacco that's going on in Northwest Indiana. I see him on Facebook, and it's like he's up there. It's a dog and pony show. But what has he really done to help the citizens with this big opportunity he has to save people from NIPSCO overcharging people, and then the problem that's going on with Amico? And John D. Rockefeller did a great job for Whiting years ago, but you know what? Unfortunately, those days are gone. They came in, they made a big mess of Whiting, polluting everything. I can remember when my basement, I don't put up the little area to look down where my sump pump was, and I thought I was like the Beverly Hillbillies. I thought I struck oil. There was always a sheen of oil underneath my property. And that was one of the reasons why I just packed up and got the heck out of the area, because of the fact that I was worried that later in my life, what kind of health issues am I going to have, because it's all about the big corporation. They're making the money and just squeezing the little guy and doing nothing for him.
Well, Steve, let me address a couple of things. One, as far as Mervan, he really, you can blame him for a lot of things, and he's had some missteps. But when it comes to NIPSCO, he really has a limited say, because a lot of the problems with NIPSCO come down to state regulators. I mean, the state of Indiana, and I have to say, one of my favorite governors really, really kind of stuck it to us, because it occurred under Holcomb, where they approved all of these additional fees, these modernization fees that NIPSCO supposedly is modernizing. Let me tell you, NIPSCO's not modernizing. NIPSCO's just replacing old wood poles with new wood poles. You go down to Florida, you go out, you're out in the West. You guys, your utility grid is a whole lot better than ours. I mean, it doesn't look like some eighth grader strung spaghetti all over the place, and that's what Northwest Indiana looks like sometime. I mean, you go down to Florida, for example, we have concrete poles, steel reinforced. We have buried cables. They've done everything right. Yes, sure, Hurricane Alley, but they've done it right, and the rates are lower down there by 200% and 300% compared to here. NIPSCO basically, a lot of the problems come from the state of Indiana. And I have to say, it was Governor Holcomb, not Governor Braun, who I'm no fan of, but Braun didn't really create the problems. The problems with NIPSCO came from Eric Holcomb's administration. And as far as BP Oil, yeah, you're right. Look, you could dig in the ground and find oil. I mean, John grew up in Goose Island. I mean, let's face it, Goose Island, you could dig a hole and you could actually take a stick, poke it in the ground, throw a match, and you had basically had a candle going. I mean, it was a different time, a different place, and they really no longer do much of anything for Northwest Indiana. They really don't.
I remember the days of Milan Krasinski, the job he did for Confederated Metals. Remember that big mess that used to be? And kudos to him. We used to have Hammond had one of the top-notch environmental protection programs. And I remember when Milan was the assistant, and then he worked his way up. My mind escaped me. The guy in your neighborhood used to be in charge of the environmental services.
Ron Novak.
That's right. Ron Novak and Milan Krasinski, those two gentlemen done so much to try to not only clean up Whiting, but just to clean up Hammond. And I tell you what, they were able to save the citizens a lot of future headaches. Confederated Metals, anytime any other buddy was polluting, they were on top of it. And those are guys that we really miss, because they've really, really done a great job. And Tom, I love your program. It's always great listening to you. You're a straight shooter. I love it. You have a way of defending both sides in a proper way. Very intelligent, and man, I It's just a pleasure to always hear your program, sir.
Steve's always great to hear from you, and take care, and look forward to seeing you next time you come out this way. Thanks for the call. 845-1100 is the number to call. Give us a call. John, Steve, that was firefighter Steve
Okay,
Stanek,
yep.
and you know Steve. And, he once again, he brings up the fact that, things are different. Things are different when it comes to BP or to NIPSCO or any of these entities anymore. They've lost that local commitment. You've driven through, I'm sure, like Columbus, Indiana, for example.
Sure.
Cummins engine. I mean, you go to Columbus, Indiana, and you look at the commitment that they made to that community, and you don't see that up here. You don't see that kind of commitment.
No, and it's just a bad. This refinery lockout has really opened up some wounds, especially for the people of Whiting. We can sit there and count bodies, but there's just too much of the brain cancer and the stomach cancer. It's especially for the children of the 80s. With the rain backups in Goose Island with oil in your basement. I mean, this is real, and it's no longer acceptable. And they don't do anything for the community. The taxes are a fraction. The job employment, the Whiting people, Whiting citizens is. So, just what are you bringing us? Everything you give us, you dump it on us when it's all useless and you leave us with big maintenance bills. No, I'm just, I grew up in that neighborhood. That refinery's been crapping on my people. Forget it. And it's this time. And I'm with the USW. Of course, Tech's with the USW. We're with all unions. But what we've seen out of NIPSCO and the refinery with these record earnings is honestly just an utter disgrace. Agreed. And Tom, I don't put you on the spot, but what have I misspoken on?
No, you're absolutely right. Look, I feel the same way. And you're right. They don't do the things they used to do. They're not part of the community. In fact, they have very little to do with the community, and sprinkling a few dollars here and there doesn't make them a good citizen. We've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, how you doing, Tom?
Good. How are you?
As far as this thing with BP, I mean, I worked there for 30 years. I've got two cancers now, not one. I got two, but I can't really complain because you know the situation you're in. You know what's going on. If you want to take the chances, you take the chances. I made a living in that place. But what gets me now is the people that are locked out. I understand they're still having all kind of problems trying to get unemployment. The state's been dragging their feet on this thing. They're locked out. It's not like they got a choice as an individual to go in that plant. They're not allowed on the property, but yet the state is still dragging their feet, getting them unemployment. What is the hang-up? Have you heard anything about that?
I've not heard a lot of detail about problems with unemployment, but what I can tell you is that the state of Indiana, and this is one of these crazy things with Mike Braun. So unemployment is relatively low, 4.3% nationwide. And Mike Braun comes in, and one of the things he says he's going to do is he's going to tighten up the state when it comes to unemployment benefits. And the state of Indiana is sitting on a pretty large surplus right now because they continue to tax employers like Tech Credit Union, for example. You guys pay a pretty hefty amount in for unemployment. So they tell you that they're sitting on a surplus. They haven't backed off though on the tax rate, and then they don't want to give out the money when people need it for a strike. And so I put that on the state of Indiana and Mike Braun. He comes in. He's got some wild views of things, and he says there's too much abuse on unemployment. Well, there was a problem with unemployment maybe a dozen years ago in Indiana, but there hasn't been for a long time, and they've been sitting on surpluses. So why are you still taxing people so harshly, employers on the one hand, and secondly, why aren't you giving up that money to strikers and people that need the money? I agree.
I've talked to people that have family that are locked out of that facility and from what they're telling me, It's a bureaucratic nightmare. There's rulings. They've got, I guess, objections. The company could object to this and to that, and it's going back and forth. It's going on 3 months now, and yet they still can't get unemployment benefits. I called Carolyn Jackson's office the other day about it to find out if she could look into this. But the point in fact is, even if they wanted to work, they couldn't. The company's not allowing them on the property. So
Right.
I do not understand. What is the problem with them getting unemployment benefits?
You're absolutely right. That's a really important point. It's a lockout. So basically, they didn't strike. The company locked them out. Okay, so if your job basically doesn't provide you with an opportunity to work, you're entitled to unemployment. And the state of Indiana, of course, I think that, as John said, they sprinkle some money around, and we both know that they sprinkle a lot of money around in Indianapolis with the governor's office and the General Assembly, and I think they're basically they're trying to hold those dollars back, and I think it's just totally wrong. I think that the Braun administration needs to fix whatever the problem is and get these people benefits, no doubt about it. Now, to his credit, he was out there on the line one day when he came up for a meeting about the Bears. So maybe he just doesn't know, but it does seem odd that that their benefits are being held up.
I've talked to people at the hall there, and from what they told me, I asked them, I said, what kind of help are you getting from our political class around here? And they basically said, well, they love their photo ops. But that's about it, and it's a shame. BP, of course, I remember when they came in, the first thing they told us at town hall meetings was, we're here to make money. We look at profit margins. We don't know whiting jack, and if we can't make any money, we'll lose this place like a bad habit. And of course, they're known for running equipment and that into the ground, not wanting to spend money on maintenance. You saw what happened down in the Gulf, and of course that wasn't even the first time that something like that happened. Texas City happened even before that. So that's just the way they roll.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same facility that you spent decades at, is it?
No, well, no. I've been out of there quite a while now, but
back in the day, you worked for Amoco, you worked for Standard Oil,
right?
And they had a whole different commitment and a whole different view of being part of the community and part of Northwest Indiana.
It was we were sort of competitive with Texas City. Texas City was always a golden boy, but we had it was almost like a competition. But Amoco was they actually, and I worked in the mills for 10 years, and it was like night and day. The safety, they had how Amoco felt about safety versus the mills. The mills were. I had plant doctors in the mills tell me the place is a death trap, but at Amoco, they actually made a real effort in safety. Now, when BP came in, all that took a back seat. They told us we're here to make money, and that's what they do. So, but to get to this predatory kind of environment to where they're actually trying to break the union, the rumor is the place is up for sale. But why would you want to actually use that? You would think if you're going to put the place up for sale, you would want to have a viable workforce to go along with it instead of trying to break the union right before you sell it. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But again, we're talking about BP.
Yeah, and nothing that they do makes sense. Hey, thanks so much for the call. We got to go to a break.
Okay, Tom.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin, John Wilkening sitting in with me. We'll take your calls at 845-1100 after this these commercial announcements.
It's gold rush time at Albert's. Oh, looky here! Oh, those are gonna fetch a pretty penny.
But who's gonna buy them from us?
I'll buy that gold from you.
What did you say?
I said I'll buy that gold from you, and I'll give you top dollar.
That sounds great.
It's gold rush time. We will see you at Albert's.
Fox Point's free summer Wednesday night concert series kicks off June 3rd with 16 candles. As June heats up, dance to Rico, Boy Band Night, and the Chicago Experience. Then join us for our first free Friday Night Lights concert featuring Fearless, a Taylor Swift tribute, and Beyond the Blonde on June 26th. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094 and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for our full schedule. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
Are you sausage curious?
Who's ready for Poland?
Big Frank Sausage has the very best Polish food in the region.
You had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage?
We have a full bar, dine-in, carry-out, delivery, and catering available.
I've had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
I've got a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
219-378-9556. Smacznego i na zdrowie.
Who's ready for Poland?
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
All right, we're back, and great to have John Wilkening, longtime friend, Chief Banking Officer, Tech Credit Union, sitting in with me this morning. John, great that you're here.
Thank you. Always an honor.
Now, I got to ask you, so what do you know about Big Boy? Did you hear about Big Boy coming to the region?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Big Boy is the Union Pacific. Big Boy is the world's largest steam locomotive. It still runs. They are bringing it through to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. It's going to come through the region on Friday and then again on July 16th, which I think is 16th or 17th. It'll be coming in, and it'll be coming through Northwest Indiana. I mean, that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds great.
I mean, a steam locomotive, the world's largest. Kind of the prowess of the steel industry, and it's coming to Northwest Indiana. So Judge Marissa McDermott has kind of been keeping me apprised of it. She's been fascinated with the story, and she's been on Facebook, and she texted me a couple of times yesterday, and should be coming through between about 8 and 9 o'clock through Hammond, and then headed on toward Hobart. So kind of a neat opportunity for people to see. And you talk about union commitment. I mean, this locomotive was built largely for the war effort to haul steel plate out to the shipyards. So this thing it's enormous and
part of Union history, steel history, and region history. So fantastic.
Yeah, and speaking of that, John Dabertin from the Northwest Indiana Times and from Community Health is here, and John's going to join us as well. So we're going to talk with John. So. Tell you what, does John, do you, which we want him over on that mic or this? Yep, we're going to have you on that mic. So John is coming in, and John, do you have earbuds or you need earbuds? Yeah, okay, he needs earbuds, so we're going to get him earbuds. And you guys know each other?
Yes, we've been on the show before.
You've been on the show before, So we're going to add an additional guest, which is John Dabertin, who comes in, of course, the first Wednesday of every month, and sits in with me and talks about different medical issues and athletic issues. And we're going to let John get set up for just a minute before we put John on the spot, because he's got all kinds of things to talk about today. And so as I was saying, though, Big Boy is coming through on Friday, and I think this is going to be a chance of a lifetime. I've never seen a steam locomotive running on the tracks like that. I mean, when we were kids, they were pretty much phased out. So this is kind of unique to see this thing come through, and should be coming through somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock through Northwest Indiana. So, and I think John Doherty's situated now, right?
I'm all
John?
set, yeah.
All right, John, what do you know about Big Boy?
I've heard of it, and I didn't realize it was coming this way.
It is coming this way, and again, I think it's just so unique to see the darn thing. I mean,
where's it going to be?
It's supposedly coming through. The latest account that Judge McDermott sent to me was it's going to come through from South Chicago, underneath the South Shore Bridge, in South Chicago, and then come into Northwest Indiana, the Norfolk Southern tracks, and then head out toward Hobart.
Okay.
So the Norfolk Southern tracks are the diagonal tracks that cut across through Hammond. In fact, they're the tracks that Lynette and I basically Fred every Wednesday morning trying to get across just in time, and we made it just in time today. In fact, one came right behind us. So it runs just north of the station. So I guess one place you go watch the Big Boy come through is at WJOB. It's going to come right through the backyard here on Friday morning. So how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. And lots to talk about this morning. But I think you want to start with your column from the Times.
The column this week was something that I don't think I've ever written about before in my column, sepsis and septic shock.
This is so bizarre. Explain why sepsis is basically in the news and in the forefront.
Kyle Busch, the great NASCAR driver, died of sepsis about 10 days ago. He'd had it seemed like a head cold, and it turned into pneumonia, and the pneumonia turned into sepsis, and by the time he got to the hospital, the damage was done, and it was too late.
All right. So
sepsis is a condition that I don't think people understand very well. It doesn't get its own category. It doesn't seem to, anyways. With when the Surgeon General's office categorizes or ranks causes of death, the leading cause of death in the country is heart disease or heart attack. Stroke is another leading cause. Sepsis isn't listed, but there are more people die of sepsis every year than die of stroke.
Yeah, and this is crazy. I mean, John, welcoming. I mean, you've heard the term sepsis before, right?
Yes.
But you really don't know a lot about it. I mean, this is one of those situations you hear people, they say, oh, the person got sepsis and they passed away, and
it's really stunning when it happens to a family, because generally it's stroke and heart attack, when they happen, it's stunning. It's a shock to the family and friends. But with sepsis, it's somebody who's otherwise, they don't have some kind of, generally some terminal diagnosis. They may have some chronic diagnosis, but they don't have a terminal diagnosis, and bang, they're gone. They walk into the hospital, but they don't walk out.
So first off, explain to myself and to John and listeners what sepsis actually is.
Sepsis is the body's overreaction to an infection. Quite literally, the body kills itself because it gets so wound up trying to eliminate an infection, the side effects from the body's reaction start damaging its own organs. When you get an infection, your body, say you get a cut and you get an infection in where the cut is, and you can see your skin gets all red and there's pus there, and the reason for that is the body releases what's called cytokines. Cytokines cause the blood vessels in the area of the infection to dilate, so there's those blood vessels fill up with blood. That blood includes white blood cells, and the white blood cells kill the infection. Well, when the body is not winning the battle, or it senses it's not winning the battle against an infection, you can get an overreaction by the immune system where it releases way too many cytokines, and all of a sudden all of your blood vessels dilate, and now there's not enough blood in your body to fill those wide open blood vessels, and then you get a cascade of effects. One of the effects is your kidneys suddenly aren't getting enough blood, so you're getting kidney damage, and the kidneys aren't making enough urine to eliminate body waste, and you have toxins building up in your body, and it's just this positive feedback cycle where one negative effect feeds on the other, and it's very difficult for the body to pull out of it unless you get emergent medical care in time.
So, when I was a kid, and John, when you were a kid, you're playing out at George Lake, for example, and I know you heard this. I always heard it, from my mom. We need to treat that cut because you get sepsis. Okay, and that's all I knew is that you got it from cuts, but
you get it from any infection.
Well, that's just it, and that's my point. So Kyle Busch didn't get cut. He had pneumonia.
He had pneumonia. But urinary tract infections. People have died from sepsis from an abscessed tooth.
Wow.
Appendicitis is another common cause of sepsis.
I mean, again, it's one of those illnesses that you hear about from the time you're a kid. I heard about it. I don't know how much value mercurochrome used to do, but my mother would say, "Well, here, you got to put mercurochrome," and you had that smell, remember, and that red dye that I think I still have remnants on my fingers of mercurochrome dye, but it sounded it sounded like, okay, you had to disinfect, you had to protect it because you could get sepsis. I never knew you could get sepsis from pneumonia.
Any infection. And pneumonia, actually, that's a condition where you're more likely to get sepsis because it's such a big infection in your lungs, and the body senses it's in trouble and releases those cytokines. Also, the infection releases some toxins as well that also cause the blood vessels to open up wide. And once your blood pressure crashes, you're in big trouble.
845-1100. We've got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi, Tom. Love your show.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Love your show. Got a question for John there. I checked out Tech Credit, but you don't have too many offices around, and I'm in South Hammond, and I'd love to see one like on Holman or South Calumet. Do you have any plans?
Hammond, downtown. Excuse me. I'm away from the microphone. Exactly right. I'm glad you brought this up, and I'll talk to it quickly. We have 11 locations and a great remote delivery system. Our call center, reaches you. They'll hit you in Wyoming. So we've got the region covered, from Orland to LaPorte. But doggone it, more importantly to me, my friend, downtown Hammond with its renaissance that's going on and the efforts, Hammond is truly on our radar. The last 3 years have been earth-shattering for Tech Credit Union. We've gotten our giddy up. We've kind of started a banking revolution. But I will say this. Downtown Hammond matters to me. I've talked to Mayor McDermott. I've talked to economic development about it. It's a downtown. It's going through a renaissance. And honestly, I'm going to say it. I always tell the truth. Downtown Hammond loses its hospital, which was wrong on so many accounts, and then as soon as they lose the hospital, a week later, People's Bank decides they're going to leave the area. Banks and financial institutions, we have a responsibility to go where we are needed. Not every neighborhood is going to be record profits, but you're there to serve the people. So Tech goes where we're needed. So I appreciate you bringing up the Hammond thing, and I want you to know that Gene Novello and my other executives, we have talked about that, and we'll have some major news with an organization we'll come out with recent in the future. But Hammond is certainly on the radar. I mean, there's great things going down Holman Avenue when you drive by it, and it deserves a financial institution, and shame on the banks who aborted it downtown.
Well, there you have it. Grab one of their old buildings, and you're in business.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks so much for the call.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
All right. I want to go back to this issue with Kyle Busch, because the other issue about sepsis is that here's a guy that worth millions upon millions of dollars had, I would think, top flight medical care.
You would think that. The other issue with a guy like Kyle Busch is, and Dr. Sloter said it in my column, he is a world-class athlete that should have been able to resist an infection like this, but he in his mind he was probably trying to push through too hard when he got really sick, and it got to the point where somebody had to call for help for him, and he should have called for help himself maybe a few days earlier. The other interesting thing, unfortunately, about sepsis is it builds up very gradually, and then all of a sudden it reaches a tipping point. And once you reach that tipping point, it's hard to come back. An interesting stat I didn't put in the column, but when I saw doing some research on sepsis, somewhere between a quarter and a third of people that die of sepsis are in their doctor's office the week before.
Well, and again, you hit it right on the head. It's where I was going. So I read your column, and again, you would think he'd have top flight care, okay, world-class athlete, all those things. But you pointed out in your column that somebody had to call for him. He himself didn't realize
how
situation.
sick he was.
Yeah.
And when you're as good at, I think there are some people out there who don't realize what great athletes those race car drivers are. They have the best reflexes. They need tremendous endurance to sit in those cars, steering those cars at such great speed and trying to beat. And it's not like they're out there racing against the clock. They're racing against other drivers. They are world-class athletes, but world-class athletes can put up with a lot more suffering than the average person can. And then, in his case, he put up with the suffering too long.
Well, and you're right about that, because for the Indy 500 broadcast a couple of weeks ago, Danica Patrick was in the pre-race show.
Yeah. And
she was wearing a sleeveless dress, and you could see how wonderful, great shape she is. I mean, she's got muscular arms and her shoulders. And my wife made the comment, well, she must be working out. I'm like, well, no. From what I've read, she continues to work out even though she's not driving anymore. And if you look at old photos of her, she was in that same shape when she was driving, because she had to be, because you're in that car for hours, and you're
and not only are they in the car for hours when they race and practice in the car. Yeah. Bush was in a simulator, and being in that simulator or in the car is tough on your body. So being in the simulator at the time he was so sick probably didn't help him.
All right, so I'm going to switch gears for a minute and bring up one of my favorite teams. And what the hell happened the other night on national broadcast? The Indiana Fever just got smoked.
I wasn't watching, so.
Oh, they just fell apart. They fell apart. It looks, if you watch the Indiana Fever, John Wilkening, do you watch them at all?
Not this year.
Okay, the Indiana Fever has unbelievable talent.
They do.
All right, they have, I mean, you talk about just unbelievable talent this year. They've got it. But it seems like the players and the coach, there's some real miscommunications. I don't know that Stephanie White right now understands what her players are trying to do and vice versa. And they came out, they had an 8-2 lead, and got smoked the rest of the game and just fell apart. And you've got some of the most talented players in the WNBA, and they couldn't get it together. And
I saw Caitlin Clark saying that she and the head coach needed to get on the same page, and that she felt she was to blame as much as the head coach. But and the other thing Caitlin Clark admitted, and something I always thought about her college game, was she needs to step up her defensive game.
She does, and speaking of defense, I mean, I'm sorry, I know listeners are like, yeah, you like her. Sophie Cunningham, 15 points, great defense, and she had one of her better games, and White benches her and puts Lexi Hall back in, and Lexi Hall had 0 points. It's like, wait a minute, you've got somebody who's scoring 15 points, and you take her out and you put in somebody that's got 0 points and like 2 rebounds, and Sophie Cunningham, of course, it's her defense that really makes her a great player.
Yeah.
So it was a disaster there. And then John, because John Wilkening, you really haven't weighed in on this either, but since we also talk sports with John Daugherty, I mean, where do you guys think we stand on the Chicago Bears?
The odds are better. They keep getting better in terms of them coming to Hammond.
I mean, John, what do you think?
Well, the odds get better by the day. Mayor McDermott said, we expected something within 30 days. But, it's Illinois, and you got to just think there's something behind the curtain that they'll make a move in the 11th hour. We're all hoping. We're all optimistic. We're all certainly rooting for it. Right now, it looks better than it looked 2 days ago, and it continues to improve, I think, by the day, right?
I think that
Tom, what do you think? Do you have any inside information?
Well, here, a couple of things. One is I noticed that it was interesting that Pritzker was basically trying to pass the buck to everybody else on Monday. When the legislature failed to act, Pritzker said, well, it was up to the legislature to handle this. Don't blame it on me. And then he went off on Mayor Johnson again, saying, Johnson never had a plan in Chicago, so Johnson can't blame him either. And right away, Pritzker pivoted to, we've got bigger issues to worry about in the state of Illinois. We've got to worry about our homeless. We've got to worry about this. We've got to worry about that. And it tells me that Pritzker, at least from his standpoint, is resigned to the fact that they don't have anything in place right now, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. And he's already said he's not calling the legislature back into session for the Chicago Bears.
The various factions of leadership in Illinois, even though they're from the same party, seem to be not functioning together right now.
I agree with you. There is, they're not. It's not one unified lockstep operation over there. There's a lot of factions within the Democratic Party,
and the few Republicans over there, they aren't going to help them out.
They're not going to help at all,
right?
And I just think that there's all these factions within the Democratic Party in Illinois, and there's just too many other agendas. I don't think Johnson really ever cared if he had the Bears or not. I think he's kind of been given the issue lip service at best.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at the opportunities right now, I mean, there's really nothing going on in Illinois. Indiana's given them a great deal.
The only thing the Bears have the only thing Illinois has going for them is the fact that Bears own that property in Arlington Heights, but the state is giving them the property here.
Right. So
we got to have a discussion about that, whether or not that's something that should be done. But it seems like the consensus in Northwest Indiana and through the state of Indiana, it's worth giving them the property.
I mean, John Wilkening, if they came to Hammond, okay, I mean, you know exactly where they're coming to. I mean, you know that area as well as anybody. I mean, are you concerned about the impact that it has on the community and the change that it brings about to the community?
Of course. I mean, a lot of our folks live right there. We grew up there. But you know what? Listen, I understand it's going to bring crazy traffic. It's going to put stress on infrastructure. But let's not kid ourselves. This is a golden opportunity. This is an economic engine, and this is a county changer. If it happens, we all should be rooting for it. I mean, I understand there's some concerns, but wow. I mean, honestly, to have that type of economic impact, up there in the north, that's just glorious. I mean, I can't root against it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Just ask the town of Foxborough in southeast Massachusetts what the Patriots have done to benefit that community. There have been some bumps in the road for Foxborough, but on balance, Foxborough doesn't want now that they have them, they sure don't want the Patriots to leave. And they're willing to put up with the 10 times a year traffic is bad there.
Yeah, and of course, if they build a dome stadium, there's probably
it'll be more than 10 times a year.
Yeah, it'll be more than 10 times.
But there'll be economic benefit to every event that comes in here. I'll give you one more Foxborough story. The World Cup it's not being played in Chicago. Thank you, Brandon Johnson, but it's being played in Foxborough, and the town council in Foxborough said it's going to be played in Foxborough after you pay us $7 million. And the Patriots and the World Cup, they ponied up to $7 million about 2 months ago after balking at it. Town of Foxborough, $7 million windfall.
Yeah, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for Northwest Indiana, and it sure looks like we're moving in the right direction. 845-1100. We've got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My only issue was with the Bears coming to Hammond. Indiana has rolled out the red carpet for these guys, even to today. I don't understand why the Bears haven't hopped on Indiana's offer. To me, in my opinion, I don't think the Bears want to come to Indiana. I think that they used Indiana as some kind of leverage to get something out of Illinois.
I think that's part of it too.
In my opinion, Illinois is broke. They can't cipher any more tax money out of the poor people that are paying crazy property taxes and all the other taxes that are implemented on them. They just don't have the money. But I don't understand the Bears, why they don't hop on this fantastic offer that Indiana has offered them. And the offer's been on the table since, early spring, late winter, and they still haven't made no decision on it. I don't know what it is.
Well, I think but I think you hit it right on the head. I think that it was always it was a game being played to see who you could get the better offer from, Indiana or Illinois. Indiana gave an offer. Illinois basically just fell apart and didn't even come up with an offer. So why wait?
Let's see what happens here in the next 30 days.
Yeah, I don't even see another 30 days. If I was the Bears, you guys, I'm not too sure. I'm not too privy of all the offers that Indiana's given the Bears, but I haven't heard anything that Illinois is giving them.
No, they
other
haven't
than
given
you got to
anything.
pay more taxes wherever they build it. I mean, I think Indiana give them a break on the taxes or on the property taxes and everything. I really think the Bears don't want to come here. I really don't. Well, that's just my opinion.
I think on balance, they would, in the end, they would probably prefer to stay in Illinois. But on the other hand, they seem more than willing to come over to Indiana when push comes to shove, and we'll know soon.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. If you stand at the pavilion at Wolf Lake, which is very close to where they would be, you can see the Chicago skyline. So you're talking about a relatively close-in location.
Closer than Arlington Heights.
Yeah, to downtown Chicago, closer than Arlington, right?
Yeah.
Much closer.
Right. All the arguments are for them to come here, for the Bears to come here, but I really don't understand them that they haven't even, said, anything, But now, like the gentleman just said, we'll wait another 30 days. So that's just it. Like I said, I don't think they really want to come here. But then again, who knows? We'll see what happens. But I just wanted to say this real quick too. Kudos to Mayor Tom. I'm not a Democrat, but that guy's trying to make Hammond a great place again. I think if the Bears do come, it would be oh my goodness, it would be great. But that's in my opinion. I don't understand why they haven't hopped on this offer. Indiana's laid out the red carpet for them, and I don't know why they haven't jumped at it. To tell you the truth, they're not going to get anything out of Illinois.
No, they're not. And
wherever they go, Arlington or state in Chicago, they're not going to get anything out of it other than more taxes and pay more fees.
Starting to realize that they're not going to get anything out of Illinois. I mean, especially when Pritzker said he's not going to call them back into session. He's not going to call the General Assembly back into session for this issue. I think that the cast has been set. There's one option, which is Indiana. Hey, thanks for the call.
All right, guys.
All right.
Great show.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we really, when you look at this issue at this point, I mean, what other option is there?
Right.
I mean,
I think the one other issue, besides the fact they own Arlington Heights, is their training facility is way up on the North Shore. And for now, at least, they say they're not going to leave the training facility. Although I think if they ended up in Hammond, eventually the training facility would come down here.
Well, I think that was kind of let out of the bag a few weeks back that they would actually bring their training facility here, is my understanding, and so
sooner or later they would.
Right, and so you'd have everything basically nicely wrapped, in a location that. When you get south of the pavilion, south of the parking lots at Wolf Lake, that area from 129th over to the toll road is kind of a mix of industrial uses. I mean, look, my friend Ron Lubis has L&S Electric over there. He's a great guy. Ron.
Oh, I know Ron well.
And I mean, he'd have to relocate, and there's a couple other businesses that would have to relocate out of there, but it's doable. It's possible. You know, Ron jokes all the time that he'll sell his property, but he still gets, he gets
tickets.
No, he gets to own the land, which will be about the 40-yard line, and
right.
So he'll get residuals from some sort of a land lease. But I mean, in reality, you'd clear out that whole area and you'd probably develop it into all kinds of things. And one of the things that works these days with sports stadiums is you have to have that, those restaurants and hotels in walking distance. When you go to Lucas Oil Stadium, you have that. When you go to Cincinnati, you have that.
Yes, you do.
When you go to Pittsburgh, you have it. Cleveland, you have it. You have to have all that development around it. And that's always been the problem with Soldier Field and any lakefront development is you wouldn't have that kind of development.
Not in walking distance, yeah.
And Arlington Heights, again, it's so far out there, it disenfranchises a lot of people from following the Chicago Bears.
The 49ers are in Santa Clara. Everybody in San Francisco survived. The Jets and the Giants are across the river in New Jersey. Everybody's fine there. The Patriots moved from downtown Boston out to Foxborough. Everybody's happy still in New England. So if the Bears come to Northwest Indiana within eyesight of downtown Chicago, all the Chicago Bear fans in the end, they'll be happy too.
I agree with you. I agree. Hey, John, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a quick break.
We're at 8
when
o'clock.
we come right back, you're listening to The Morning Call on WJOB 1230M, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Plumbers Local 210 is building the future, and we're looking for service plumbers to join our team. Our training center invests nearly $500,000 every year to make sure our members are the best in the industry. From a 5-year apprenticeship and an associate degree at Ivy Tech to ongoing certifications in safety and new technology, our plumbers are trained for excellence. Every member is drug tested and licensed for your safety and peace of mind. When you need plumbing work done, make sure you ask for the license. It's your right to ask.
Before Notre Dame Federal Credit Union, we were being charged various maintenance fees and various check writing fees for all of our accounts. And with Notre Dame, we don't have that. We have that true community partnership. We get interest based on all of our parish and school accounts, and the interest rate is really second to none.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention.
Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
All right. First and foremost, you are listening to WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin. Good morning. If you're just tuning in, John Wilkening, Chief Banking Officer of Tech Credit Union, is sitting in with me this morning. Lots to talk about. John, thank you for being here. We talked a little bit about the Bears just now with John Daugherty. It would be union construction. It'd be a massive project. Randy Palmentier, by the way, shout out to Randy Palmentier. Randy, and thank you for passing on the message. Randy did call me, and Randy Palmentier is going to come in one morning and sit in. We're going to keep very very close attention.
Can I come in that day too?
Well, we're going to keep close attention to the 7-second delay. Just kidding, Randy. But yeah, actually, you know what? That'd be kind of fun.
Randy's on our board along with Steve Minchuk and Corey Campbell, and we are where Labor banks, so Labor gets a seat at the table. I'll tell you that.
You know what? When you talk to Randy, tell Randy that we talked on the air and said, "Hey, you're coming in with him, and let's figure out when he's going to come in." But this issue of the Bears, I mean, we're talking about a game changer for Northwest Indiana. Whiting Robert Still as well as anybody on planet Earth, John. It's a big change. The mayor has said it will not affect the residential properties. It would affect some of the industrial properties, again, along Calumet down to the toll road. Again, if you were going to put odds, what do you think the odds are right now that the Bears come?
I think they improve every single day. At first I thought, Illinois is playing our game, but our leadership, our mayor, they got to go out there and make their play for it, and they went all in. And the fact is that they're in the game, right? They're in a game that did not exist, that was an impossible dream, and every day the dream becomes a little bit more possible. And the economic windfall that this would bring to the entire region, it's a once-in-a-lifetime. So I understand, somebody grew up in a neighborhood, life's going to change, traffic's going to change, it's going to bring difficulties, but it's also going to bring a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Tom, let me sidebar on this. Just think about this. If Whiting wasn't held hostage by that refinery all those years with the big taxes and the jobs back when they were a real refinery and took care of the community, there was a dependence there now that they walk away. But I'm going to throw a curveball out there because I work in the credit union sector, and it's always stuck me in my crawl. Anytime anybody leaves their hometown, I don't like it. Let's talk about Centier Bank real quick. First bank of Whiting. Started in Whiting, Indiana. Now you're the biggest family bank in the state. You're $10 billion. You're a Whiting Robertsdale guy. How strong would Whiting be as a community? The refinery's there, and the biggest community bank in the state of Indiana was headquarters there. If we had Centier's headquarters in Whiting, Indiana, where they were born, where we named a street after their founder, where their relative was the first mayor of the community, had they stayed true to the roots of Whiting, you think that refinery would be able to back us over a barrel? So, you know what? You get opportunities like this, and the Bears come. It doesn't matter if it inconveniences us or gets us upset or it causes a little aggravation. Like you said, the labor jobs, the constant jobs, the people working in the stadium, it is an economic windfall. So we all need to pray for that, whether it annoys us, hurts us, but it is a once in a lifetime. When you get an economic engine to come to your community and change life, and again, I keep going back through this lockout. People say, with the way the refineries treated the community the last 40 years, pulling back. I always say, we're stuck. They always put a proverbial gun to our head. Well, if Centier Bank had stayed the first bank of Whiting and kept their headquarters there, how many people would be there eating lunch every day? At this time with their size, 5,000-6,000 people, would I be crazy saying that number?
No, in fact, people forget this, but back until the mid 1970s, till they changed their charter, Standard Oil of Indiana had to hold its annual stockholders meeting. Where did they hold it? They held it at the Whiting Community Center in the auditorium. And if you remember, John, that was a big deal. The limos would show up and they'd be all lined up in the alley, and the Swearingen and everybody else would go into the Whiting Community Center auditorium for their stockholders meetings a couple times a year, and that had a huge impact on Whiting. And by the way, I'm just thinking aloud for a second. Frankie V's. Jeff Smith, I know you're listening, but Frankie V's it's a great place now. It's a gold mine, but wow, if the Bears are down the street, it'd be like the closest restaurant to the Bears Stadium. Jeff, Martina, okay. That is just, I didn't think about that before. And Jeff's probably sitting there saying like, what? You didn't think about this till now, Tom? Yeah, you're right. I didn't. But I got to plug in for Frankie V's.
Absolutely.
Great food, great place. 845-1100, we've got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning. Oh, we lost the caller. Tell you what, we have another guest this morning. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a guest who's an author who's going to talk about her book. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJLB 1230 M, 104.7 FM.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Enjoy the taste of summer at the Farmers Market at Fox Point. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1, shop locally grown fresh produce, delicious baked goods, artisanal treats, and local culinary creations. Just minutes from I-8094, the Farmers Market at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is a perfect spot to hear acoustic musicians, stretch with morning yoga, and enjoy community fun throughout the season. To see all vendors and entertainment, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Labor's District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
All right, we're back. And, of course, sitting in with me, John Wilkening, Chief Banking Officer of Tech Credit Union. But we've got a special guest with us this morning, and it's Georgia Fontelakis.
Yes.
All right, I did pretty well on that. Who wrote a novel called Armilia. And it is a novel that takes place in Bosnia. Basically, I'll let you explain the basis of it.
Okay. It's a novel that takes place, pardon me.
A little closer to the mic, please.
All right. It's a novel that takes place towards the beginning of the Bosnian War, and it doesn't have a lot of violence or military aspect to it. It's really about a woman who wants to help her husband, who right after they get married, he kind of goes underground, and she wants to help him, so she disguises herself as a Bosniak, and begins working with a very high government official to try to find out what the Bosniaks may be planning to do that might hurt the Serbs. And so there's a little bit of history in there, but I didn't try to do an information dump because I don't think that contributes to reading historical fiction. But the hardest part was trying to keep the dates straight so that I didn't use a date that was incorrect. So I tried to stay as historically pure as I could, and at the same time talk about what this woman experienced becoming, she was Serbian, she became a Muslim, and she had to kind of pose in that identity to try to uncover some of the, what they were planning to do. And this Bosniak official I portrayed as somebody who was conflicted about war. He didn't really he was in the military all his life, but he really had a hard time hurting other people. And so hopefully that came out in the book, that he was pretty conflicted about that.
So the book is fiction.
Absolutely.
Is it based on some true story, or is it all fiction?
No.
Okay.
No, it's totally fiction. What the historical part is that it takes place at the beginning of the Bosnian War. That part of it is what's historical, and I had to make sure. And actually, I was looking at some of the dates and make sure that I didn't do something on a particular date that conflicted with something that occurred historically. So I tried to stay pure to the historical sequence of what happened at the Bosnian War, but the story is purely fictional.
So I think for a lot of listeners, they have a hard time still understanding that Yugoslavia basically was a federation of a number of different states. Yes. And so, people, John, you and I grew up, we heard about Yugoslavia, okay? And we grew up in Whiting, Robertsdale, and of course there were the Croats and the Serbs, and there was a lot of ethnic influence throughout. I knew a little bit more about Yugoslavia than most people because my father was born in Montenegro. And so my father was Montenegrin, and so no surprise, A, I'm dark-skinned, and B, I'm 6'9". That's no surprise because they're known as some of the tallest people in Europe, and also they are on the Adriatic, so they're pretty good at taking in the sun. But there are really six or seven different countries that comprised Yugoslavia that now exist. So you've got Montenegro, you've got Bosnia, you've got Croatia, Serbia. You've got a whole federation of different countries, and those are each individual countries and kind of a fascinating area of the world that a lot of people kind of gloss over and say, Yugoslavia.
Yeah, and I think that I took this book to a couple of book clubs that I belonged to, and that was one of the things that came out in the last book club meeting is they had to do a lot of research to figure out what this was all about. They really weren't familiar with that. These are younger women, and so they're not familiar with Yugoslavia per se. They're familiar with the countries now, but they didn't realize that they were part of a bigger country. And even though Tito was considered a
communist,
besides that, he was more like a dictator.
Right, he was a dictator.
But he held the country together. He held the country together that way. And later, when their ethnicities flourished, they wanted to be separated because they felt that they needed their own. This is something different than what we have here in the United States. We have so many ethnicities here. We live with each other. We love each other's differences, but that's not true around the world. People like to be with people like themselves, right. And they would prefer to be separate and even maybe not even an economically viable country, but they're still got their country. That's a little different than the way we are. We're a big melting pot, and it's just a different way of looking at other people.
Yeah, Joseph Tito, of course, was the dictator and communist ruler of Yugoslavia from the end of World War II until basically it was unwound in the early 1990s, late 1980s. But one thing that Tito, to his credit, was they were communists, but he kept them. He largely kept them on the periphery of the influence of the Soviet Union and others. He was somewhat of an independent communist, if there was such a thing at the time. He wasn't. It wasn't like Poland or what was then Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic and Slovakia and some of the other countries, Romania, where they were just simply puppets of the Soviet Union. Tito was a little bit more independent, but nonetheless, there was that as the Iron Curtain fell okay, as East Europe was liberated, there was also that rise of ethnicities and ethnic roots, and that was really quite prevalent in Yugoslavia because, again, you had this federation of states, but they still held their own ethnicity, and as you said, they wanted their ethnicity to flourish.
Yes.
And of course we had the Bosnian War in the 1990s.
Yes.
And that's where this story takes place.
Right.
So why write the novel? Why tell listeners your background?
This is part of other books that I've written as well, and ones that I plan to write. I have a degree in international affairs, and I got that degree because I had a dream about helping resolve the Cyprus problem. Well, I didn't get to that. The State Department doesn't want to hire a Greek to try to solve Greek and Turkish issues, so I felt that the way to use my education and to honor my alma mater is to focus on a human rights issue. And one of the human rights issues that I'm really focused on is, this is a kind of a harsh word, but I don't know what other word I can use, but the genocides that have occurred in history. And so I have a list of them, and I'm slowly working my way down that list. And this is one of them, because during the Bosnian War, there was a genocide, unfortunately.
So if people want to read the novel, how can they find it?
It's available in Barnes & Noble online. I'll be doing an author event on Saturday from 3 to 5.
Where at?
Pardon me?
Where
In Cherville.
Okay.
And it's also available on Amazon. It's available.
It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You'll have the author event this Saturday,
yes.
3 to 5. And this is not your first book either. This
was my first novel.
Your first novel, but not your first book.
No, it's not my first book. I wrote short stories and novellas prior to that. Some of them are focused on other genocides, and that's really what my books are focused on. I just want, what I don't want to show the cruelty of it. I want to show how people get through it and live their daily lives through something like that. So, for example, I wrote a book on Gaza. But I took it from the perspective of a family trying to survive during that time period.
I mean, we, as much as we would hope that being in the 21st century, we live in a peaceful world. We nothing of the sort. We haven't found that peaceful world, that coexistence. We still find a lot of wars and strifes going on, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I guess if there's a message from your book, what would it be?
I just want people to remember, in the hope that it's not repeated.
Yeah, it's very important. And that's the problem. We have a lot of wars and a lot of problems going on in this world that unfortunately continue to repeat themselves, and we fight some needless wars. We really do, and there's that lack of respect and that lack of understanding, and it just kind of continues to go on, and it's it's a fascinating book. It's a novel. It's available through Amazon. It's available through Barnes & Noble online, and then you'll be Saturday, 3 to 5. Don't know. I had to go through every day. 3 to 5 this Saturday at Barnes & Noble in Cherville.
Yes.
And you'll be there to answer questions and to sign books.
Yes.
And we appreciate having you come in this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me. I certainly appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Georgia, and I hope I didn't murder the last name.
Oh, no, not at all.
So again, give everybody the correct pronunciation of the name so they can look it up.
Oh, my name is Georgia Funtulakis.
Futalakis. You know, I there's got to be somebody. One of my Greek friends is listening right now, saying, "Yeah, you did okay on that one." But thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's the Morning Call on WJOB.
Planting a tree, installing a fence, whether your project is big or small, NIPSCO reminds you to know what's below and contact 811 at least 2 full business days before doing any digging so that utility companies can mark the location of their underground lines. Contacting 811 is free and it's the law. Avoid possible penalties, costly repairs, or injuries. DIY or a pro, safety is in your hands. Every dig, every time.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
All right, we're back, and don't forget, coming up in about 10, 12 minutes, we're going to have the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show right here on WJOB, part of the Community Programming Initiative. I always point out the longest serving show on WJOB started in the late 1970s, kind of by happenstance with Irv Lewin, and has morphed into a regular program the first of every month right here on WJOB. So that'll be coming up. And John, you know the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce. I think your mom would tell you better know it. She's heavily involved. Your sister's involved. So we'll talk with some guests coming up about 8:35. So we've talked about all kinds of interesting topics this morning, and hey, I did get a response out of Jeff Smith. Yeah, I mean, again, he's like, you got to be kidding me, right? I mean, when you think of the Bears and you think of the impact that it would have on Frankie V's, and by the way, you got to have their fold-over pizza. If you haven't had it, you haven't had pizza, folks. You got to have the fold-over pizza. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. So the rest of their food. But you look at Frankie V's, you look at Emerald Green, you look at restaurants throughout Whiting. It's a game changer if the Bears come. No doubt about it.
Oh, it'll be earth-shattering, honestly. I mean, there'll be pre-Bears and post-Bears in the region, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a fact. So, great job by leadership to get us in the game, and that's the most we can ask of our leaders is they're out there seeking opportunity and they're trying to better the areas we live, and they saw an opening in the door and they knew the odds were long, but they just kept kicking and prying until it became a legitimate conversation. So just congratulations to leadership. And I kind of really believe the region worked as one on this thing,
Well, no, that's what I think is the difference between Indiana and Illinois. So if you're the McCaskey family and you're looking at coming to Indiana, you've got this unified approach, right? So the mayor's a Democrat, the governor's a Republican, probably substantially different in their views, knowing Tom McDermott the way I do versus Mike Braun. But they came together, and so did everybody else. They passed it unanimously in record time through the legislature. Everybody's kind of lockstep. And then you go over to Illinois, and the Democrats control the General Assembly, and the governorship, and the mayor of Chicago, but none of them are talking together. It kind of sounds like George's book. You talk about ethnic squabbles and battles because nobody gets along, and they can't get their act together. And if you're the Chicago Bears, you got to say, why do I want to deal with this? I mean, you're going to build this dome stadium. It's going to be phenomenal, and then you're going to deal with that. Let's take the last caller of the morning. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning. Hello. And
you hear me?
There we go. Go ahead.
It's Brad. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Hey, Brad, you guys, I just wanted to get you right before the end of the hour. Hey, John, you think they're going to give away, you think they're going to give interest on stable coins with the Clarity Act or not? What do you think?
Me and you have met. I've been working with some people doing a lot. It's hard to say. It could cause some serious liquidity issues if that. I'm hoping not. Again, that I hear it from both sides, as do you. But that's been one of the hookups, is not to thrive to convert, over. I mean, that could be a real drain on deposits for, mainly probably affects bigger commercial banks more, and it'll affect everybody. So, Brad, I'm telling you, that's a coin flip. This administration seems to be pro, but I think the rest of the regulatory world thinks not.
I agree. I hope it works out for your credit union the most, because I think you give back a lot to the community, and I think hopefully being able to ever chat again about it might be a really positive thing. But great show today, you guys. I did like the array of topics, and you guys have a good rest of the week, and heck, enjoy the summer, because I'll tell you what, with this Clarity Act and a few other things, it's going to be quite a ride.
Amen to that, Brad.
Hey, thanks, Brad. Thanks so much for the call.
Take it easy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at issues that are going on, and I mean, we didn't talk about some of the regulatory issues, and we'll do that the next time you're on. You've got a new chairman of the Fed, and you've got a lot of different things that are in play, but overall, just with a couple minutes left, I mean, the economy, in spite of the cost of fuel prices and the impact that the war with Iran had, seems to be growing at a pretty steady rate and holding its own. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And I kind of wait for the shoe to drop, and I wonder, and then you wonder, will it? We kind of get on that. I felt a few times we've gone to the brink of maybe having some, tougher problems, and it seems we just keep chugging. If there is a problem in the country right now, it's the job search. And, so the unemployment rate is far from accurate, just because there's so many people giving out. What used to be 3 months to find a job is running 8.5 months. And if you're over 50, it's running outwards to 2 years. There's a lot of, there is some ageism out there, which I laugh. If you've ever met John Wilkening, if you want to bring up any 30-year-old banker to run the streets with me, I win that race. And I mean that jokingly. But, I mean, you get all this experience. But I have so many friends across the country that are in their 50s through a merger in the banking world, lost their jobs. These people have so much talent, so much skill, and they're not getting opportunities. And honestly, some people are just being forced from the workforce. So the unemployment is what concerns me. The way we're handling job searches, AI, the inhumane way we do it, they ghost candidates, etc. I take very great pride. I mean, I've got 3 employees that I met once, and one I hired during the Bronco Patriot game. Seriously, I mean, I knew the
knowing you, I'd believe that. I believe that.
So from an economic standpoint, the job search for worries me for everybody, and it also, but mostly the people after their 50th birthday, which is just ridiculous. We're living longer. They're looking. They're committed. They won't leave you. They're not looking for the next best thing. They're looking for their last job, and they'll do it. And believe me, I've drank in that trough now 3 times in the last 6 months, and they've been the best three hires I've made. So there are some factors out there, but the biggest concern to me is all these laid off people. How are they getting back to work, and why? And again, there's false job postings out there. We read that. We're wasting people's time.
And people, you're right. There are people who are laid off, and they're laid off for years and not months, and so there's some false pretenses when it comes to the labor market, but overall the economy seems to be moving forward, and let's hope and pray it does. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce show right here on WJLB. So give us a few minutes, and we'll be right back.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself